So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How's everybody today?
Great.
What a beautiful, beautiful day. We've been blessed with the weather lately, so that's something to be grateful for as well. So we're happy you're all here. Let's begin with a prayer as we do all services here in our church. And we do start this morning with a moment of gratitude. We do look at the beautiful sunshine and the perfect weather and know that we truly are blessed, and for all of the adversities that come our way, there's always that rainbow, that sunshine at the end. And so for this, we're grateful. Grateful for this beautiful day, for each and every soul who sits in this church this morning, and for all of those who could not be with us, those who are ill today, and we send them all our love and our blessings for rapid healing. We bless all churches, all mosques, all temples, everywhere. We know that we are all one. We know that we were all created by the one Creator. And we send out love and blessings. So we bless each one here, each one who couldn't be here. We bless this week ahead. And we know that truly, 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 when we are living in gratitude, all works well in our lives. And so it is. Amen. So surely the presence is on the screen. So Lynn, play it for us. Together our statement of being: there is but one presence and one power in this church, in our lives, and in the universe, God, the good, omnipotence. And this morning, our daily word reading will be Mr. Dave Weber. Come on up, sir. Like that shirt.
Good day. That's what they say in Australia. Today, for Sunday, March 7th, World Peace, celebrating diversity and affirming unity. I am a presence of peace in the world. The road to world peace begins with my open-hearted acceptance of those who are different than me. Our world is vast and diverse, and its people come from a wide variety of cultures and histories. The more I learn about those whose lives differ than mine, the more I can appreciate their perspectives and empathize with their struggles. When I make the decision to understand others, I discover that judgment fades in the light of compassion. Wow. Today I sow peace through my acceptance and understanding. Peace in the world grows as I join my brothers and sisters in celebrating the glory of human diversity and affirming oneness with God. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Great thought.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Weber. So, I'm not sick, guys. I just have a frog in my throat. I'm perfectly okay. And I got my shot Friday, so I'm happy about that. So,
First one or?
first one,
Yeah, me too.
yeah. So,
Good.
so all is well. So we have a congregational song right now, Miss Lynn. Kumbaya.
Kumbaya. I couldn't resist. It's perfect for the reading. I had no idea.
Okay. It's on the screen though, right?
It will be.
The words, okay. The words will be on the screen. How many of you remember this from Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts or
Sing around the
4-H
campfire.
or, huh?
Sing around the campfire.
Yeah, yeah.
Here we go.
The only thing missing are the s'mores.
Yeah, that's it.
Really?
Thank you, Ed, that was great. All right, that's great. That's a really, really old, tried and true, and I just had forgotten about it. So thank you, Lynn.
Sure.
So our talk this morning is the third chapter of the Four Agreements. And I thought I would start out by reading, and the title of today's talk is Don't Make Assumptions. But I found this funny little thing about nuns grading papers of her elementary school children. And I think she made some assumptions that they knew more than, that they didn't know as much as she thought that she had taught them. So I want to give you just a few of what they came up with. And of course the first paragraph says, can you imagine the nun sitting at her desk trying to grade these papers while trying to keep a straight face and not laugh out loud? And these are children from an elementary school, and these were test questions. And here were some of the answers. In the first book of the Bible, the Genesis, the book of Genesis, God got tired of creating the world, so he took the day off. Adam and Eve were created by an apple tree. And Noah's wife was Joan of Arc. Lot's wife was a pillar of salt during the day, but a ball of fire during the night. Oh my goodness. Moses led the Jews to the Red Sea where they made unleavened bread, which is bread with no ingredients. The Egyptians were all drowned in the desert, and afterward Moses went up to Mount Sinai to get the 10 Commandments. The first commandment was when Eve told Adam to eat the apple. And the 7th commandment was, thou shalt not admit adultery. There's more of these, I'll bring them another day, but I thought they were just so cute. So I think the teacher has her work cut out for her. But anyway, I love that one. But this is the 3rd week of our 4-week series from the book, The 4 Agreements. I think we sold the last one last week, but I'm not sure. There may be some more in the bookstore. And just to give a little synopsis to those of you who were not here, it was written by Miguel Ruiz. He is a Toltec Indian out of Mexico, and he came from thousands of years generation. The Toltecs were scientists and doctors. They weren't like a tribe, they were a gathering of like-minded scientists, teachers, doctors, who taught wisdom. Now, Miguel Ruiz grew up with a mother who was a healer and a grandfather who was a shaman. And so it was assumed that when he grew up, he would take on their practice of being a shaman and a healer. But he just wanted to be a medical doctor. So he left and went to Mexico City to become a medical doctor. And he did that until he had a car accident that almost killed him. And during that long recovery, he got really interested in the Toltec history and the wisdom and the traditions. And he decided that his job was not in medicine, but to write this book among other books and to teach the Toltec wisdom. The first 2 agreements that we've talked about in the last 2 Sundays were, the first one, be impeccable with your word, and the second one, don't take anything personally. The ancient Toltec teachings in this book really are about the power of our word, using the power of our word, and using it only for truth and love. He says, don't use the word against yourself or against others. Nothing others do is because of you, and what others say is a projection of their own reality. So those are kind of the things we've covered up to this week. This week, the 3rd topic is don't make assumptions. Miguel Ruiz says we have to find the courage to ask questions. We have to ask for what we really want, and we rarely do. We have to learn to communicate as clearly as we can. We have to avoid misunderstandings, avoid drama, and avoid sadness. We're not very good at that because we were never taught to ask questions. And I don't know how you were raised, but when I was growing up and I said why 100 times, I was told because I said so. Tony says yes, he's had the same thing. So I didn't learn a lot growing up, and I didn't learn that it was okay to ask questions a lot because I wasn't going to get the answer anyway. However, I did learn one thing. I learned I did not want to bring my child up that way. I vowed that when he asked a question, I would do my best to give him an answer. And that went on endlessly. I decided he was going to be a lawyer when he grew up because he never stopped asking why. He asked a million questions about everything. But it's because we humans have a huge need to know. We need to know. And if we don't know, we humans will make it up. We'll make it up based on what seems most logical to us in our mind. We don't have to know all the facts. We just assume something appears logical and that's our answer. Rarely do we get to the bottom of things. And Miguel Ruiz in the book says the problem with our making assumptions is that we begin to believe that our logic is the truth. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking, and then we take it personally and we blame them or we blame ourselves. We make up a whole story in our mind and we decide it's the truth. And we react by creating a whole big drama because we repeat our assumptions to other people without knowing all the facts. Miguel Ruiz says, we create poison and hurt feelings for ourselves and others unnecessarily because we didn't ask for clarification. And we didn't get all the facts or give others all the facts that they need to know. I once saw, it's been a long time, so as I tell you this skit, you have to remember there were no cell phones back then. But I saw a skit that illustrated this beautifully. It was a man driving a car and his wife was in the passenger seat, and they weren't talking, but what you were hearing the moderator say was what they were thinking. So here's what their thoughts were. The scene is they're going home from a party that the wife insisted they attend. And the wife had just asked her husband in the car if he had enjoyed the party, knowing that he hadn't wanted to go in the first place. But she had hoped that he was going to say he did have a good time, but he didn't answer her. She immediately concludes that he didn't have a good time, and he's giving her the cold shoulder, and he's angry for her insisting that they go. She then tells herself, he shouldn't be angry after all. I don't ask much of him, and he should be more willing to do the few things that I ask him to do. She again asks him out loud, did you enjoy seeing your old friend Bill tonight? It looked like you two had a lot to talk about. He still doesn't answer her, and she gets even more defensive in her own mind. Meanwhile, we get to hear what he's thinking and why he's so absorbed. He hasn't answered her because he's noticed the car is registering on hot. He is rapidly trying to figure out what's he going to do. It's late at night. The garages are closed. He's trying to take an inventory in his mind of what could be wrong with the car and what he should do. He's checking off things one by one. He knows it's late and he knows his options are pull over to the side of the road, hope someone comes to help him, try to make it home, go somewhere that might be open to call a tow truck. So all these things are going through his mind, and he hasn't heard a word she said because he hasn't paid attention to her. He's got a serious issue on his hands. Meanwhile, the wife gets madder and madder at him because he's giving her the silent treatment. She's assuming he's still mad about having been drugged to a party he didn't want to attend. At this point, she's crying. And he says, And she says he shouldn't be mad for having to take her to a party he didn't want to go to. And he shouldn't be giving me the silent treatment now, she thinks. He should be more considerate of me staying home all day, every day, and never getting to go anywhere. She's really working herself up about it. Now, he's really worried. It's late. No garages are open. And he hasn't heard a word she said because he's trying to make an important decision that weigh the risks of perhaps being destructive to their car. Well, by this time, she's completely lost it. She's crying. She's angry. She's telling him how inconsiderate he is, and why doesn't he love her enough to do what she needs done every once in a while. This outburst gets his attention, and he says, "Did you say something, dear?" She's practically ready to get a divorce, and he's merely absorbed with the car and trying to decide what to do to keep the car from being burned up. She's beside herself, she's unloved, she's unappreciated, and he's just deeply concerned about the possible destruction of the car. Now, the wife could have avoided tremendous upset if she had not assumed why he was not talking to her and just asked a few more questions. And he did something similar. He could have said something to her about what he was concerned about, but he assumed that he would probably take care of this without her having to be concerned. So you see how that assuming doesn't work. We've got to be able to open our mouths and talk to one another. We've got to ask more questions, but we rarely do it. We just make up the logic in our mind and we run with it. I know none of you have ever done that, I'm sure. So, the whole point of this story and of this chapter in the book is we have to learn to ask better questions. We have to learn to not make assumptions. He has in big bold letters in the book, assume nothing, ask questions. He emphasizes in this chapter that we cannot ask too many questions. We have to not be afraid to know the answer, which is yet another assumption. Have you ever done that? You don't want to ask the question because you really don't want to hear the answer. So you make that up in your mind too. The human mind can create a lot of chaos by only seeing what we want to see and hearing what we want to hear, especially if it fits our imagination and our belief system. His silence is all she needed to see how unhappy he was about going to a party she dragged him to. It fit her picture, and she defended her position. And yet, as we see, it had nothing to do with his silence. Another relationship assumption people make is assuming that the spouse or the significant other should know what we want, how we think, and when they don't, we set them up to fail and we get to be right because we get to be mad at them because they didn't know what we wanted. I got a lot of marriage counseling cases in my office over the years, that you should know what I want. You should. It's not true. You have to say what you want. You can't assume that that other person just ordinarily knows how to read your mind. You could want 3 different things about the same thing over a period of time. And yet there's always a terrible upset when that happens. You say to yourself that that should never happen, they should have known what I wanted. And the other one's saying, but I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what you want, you have to tell me. So you can see how that creates issues with one another in a relationship. The they should already know that's a trap. That you can't do that. And I have seen a lot of marriage on the rocks because that's what they're doing. They're getting mad because the other person didn't meet their expectation, and the other person didn't even know what their expectation was. So we have to speak up. We have to ask for what we want. And maybe we're afraid to ask for what we want because we're afraid we'll hear no. It's okay to hear no. Just as we have to decide that it's okay for us to ask questions or to ask for what we want, we have to be just as okay for the other person to be able to say, nope, can't do that. That is open, honest, truthful communication. I get to ask for what I want, and then I have to be okay with the answer. And many times the answer could be yes. We might in our mind think it won't be. Have you ever done this? Have you ever done this on a job where you don't ask for a raise and you don't ask for a raise and you assume you should get a raise and nobody offers you a raise, and then one day you just get mad enough and you go ask for the raise and they go, oh sure, absolutely, let's talk about that. It's our assumptions. It's what we assume in our mind. And then it becomes our logic and our truth, and we don't ask for or receive clarification. The most honest relationship you can have with somebody is the ability to ask for what you want and then being perfectly okay with the answer. The answer may be yes or it may be no. But that's open and honest communication. We can't assume that people think the way we think, judge the way we judge. We can't believe erroneously that they may blame us because we don't feel good about ourselves. You know, if I think badly of myself, I'm going to automatically think you think badly of me too. None of those things are true. And yet we walk around with them in our logical mind, believing that they are what is true. I learned this at a very young age. At that time I was in banking, and part of my job was a small bank, so I wore a lot of hats, but one of my jobs was human resources. We had a beautiful young secretary. She had 2 beautiful daughters, and very often she came to work battered and bruised. And her guy was a big guy. And I would counsel with her, and I told her we would help her leave that situation. She really wouldn't talk about it. She really was very closed about it, but she was not going to leave it. I was really concerned for her and the girls over time because it got more often and it got more often all the time. And one day, I'm thinking in my mind, I wouldn't have stayed one day. If someone had hit me once, I'd have been out of there. That wouldn't have happened to me twice. That was my thinking. I'd assumed she had a life like mine, opportunities like mine. But her life, it turned out, was one that I could never have even imagined. And it was why she stayed. It was a big lesson in my life. So she told me the story, which I will abbreviate to you, and I was stunned. One day when I said, Joyce, honey, you can't keep living like this. It's not fair to your girls. Your girls will grow up and think that it's okay to have this kind of abuse, and it'll follow them. And we'll all help you. You've got to find a way out. And she said, I can't. I could never take care of myself and my girls. And I said, why would you say that? She made good money and she was smart. And she told me the story of her life. She had been raised by a single mom. She had 2 little sisters younger than her. And she had lived in the slums in Chicago growing up. And her job at night was to stay awake and keep the rats from chewing on the toes of her younger sisters. I couldn't believe it. I really was speechless. I had no idea. And she said, I will never put my girls through that. Can you see the filter, the assumption that I made that her life would be like my life and that she could just walk out? And she had the assumption that if she went on as a single mom, this is what would happen to her. This was her frame of reference. So each of us had our own frame of reference. And I learned something that day that's been a lesson that I've kept all of these years, is that I can never assume the life and the experiences of another person and how it forms their existence. Now, I will tell you, this story had a happy ending. She was able to leave. She was able to go out on her own. She met and married a lovely, lovely man who had a very good job, and they had a great life, and they lived together 30 or 40 more years before he died. So it did have a happy ending, but that was a lesson that I learned early on, that I couldn't assume anything about anybody else's reason or existence or what might mold and form their decisions. Another thing we do when we are in relationship is we assume that we won't discuss the things we don't like about a person before we marry them, but after we marry them, we'll change them. Ever done that? Ever seen anybody do that? Ever seen anybody try to do that to you? Just don't talk about it, but once I marry you, I'll try to change you. I'll try to make you what I want you to be. That's not love, and it never works. You gotta love them for who they are, in spite of who they are, and don't think you're gonna change them. That is another assumption that will never work. So this assumption chapter it's really about relationship, and of course the whole book is about relationship. It's about how we interact and relate with other people and the ways that we can do it that are beneficial to ourselves and to the relationship, the truth and the way that we come together. So I just want to emphasize to you that we have this guideline that helps us remember that the best thing we can do is communicate clearly. We can get clarification. We can't ask too many questions. we have to continue to know that our assumptions and what we're thinking may have absolutely nothing to do with the truth of what's going on at the moment. So we want to take that into a thought now of meditation. Think about the places in your life where you may have assumed something that didn't work out, where you've been afraid to speak out, where you've made up a story in your own mind that you find out later on has nothing to do with the truth. And just see where that might fit for you in your life. So let's just move into now a time of reflection. Take a deep breath. Just allow yourself to be fully present in the room. Think about the times that perhaps you have not asked all the questions that you could have asked, and that you made assumptions that turned out maybe not to be true. Maybe you're grappling with that right now. Just ask yourself, what are the questions I could ask? What are the additional ways that I could find out more information? Or might I be making erroneous assumptions? That I could have more clarification. Is there a relationship that I would like to make better that I might be assuming? That I might be able to get more clarification, come from a different perspective. Is there a place in my life where I don't want to hear the answer? I don't want to hear the no. So we know that there is power in the Word. There's power in the truth. And so we make a decision this morning that we will ask more questions, ask for more clarification. Be bold as we communicate, assuming nothing, asking more, learning more. Let go of the judgments. We let go of any assumption that people may think badly of us. And we speak our truth in love. We stay open to the answers. And we know that in doing so, we create a life of joy and peace, understanding, and we know that the more the clarification, the more that we live a life of joy and truth and different perspective. And we stay open, assuming nothing, asking, and speaking our own truth, and allowing others to do the same. And so we bless each relationship that we are in. We vow to create more clarification, and we know this is the path to truth and love. And so it is. Amen. So, next week, we're supposed to launch our live streaming. So we will be live streaming if all is well. And Tony, will you be around? I think Stephen's going to come down this week and just touch base with you. I don't think there's anything you have to do, but anyway, if you're going to be around this week. So we will be able to live stream it at the time, in real time. And then we will leave part of it. We won't put the whole thing. We'll leave part of it on YouTube and our website and Facebook. So probably just the lesson on the other places. But if people are at home, we still have a lot of people who aren't coming because they don't want to come and be in public yet. And so this allows them to be able to have church on Sunday morning with us at home. So just wanted to let you know that. We will be on YouTube in a day or so. This service will be on YouTube, so if you want to watch it again or recommend it to somebody, we will have it on YouTube in a day or so. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you? The bookstore will be open after the service, and we have a love offering basket in the back as you leave, and we would love any offering that you could give us so that we can keep the lights on and keep us going here during this time. So I think that's all the announcements that I have. So let's do our peace song and our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. See you next week, same time, same place, and our fourth chapter will be Always Do Your Best. So have a beautiful week, everybody. Love you. Thank you for being here.